heartbeat. And when you're gone, I feel incomplete. So if you want the truth, I just wanna be part of your symphony. It's on repeat, and I'm dancing on to your heartbeat. And when you're gone, I feel
Right, guys,
incomplete. So
Chris,
if you want
live from Taiwan, here in Taiwan. And yeah, I decided to do a podcast with you because we talked a lot these days, and we know each other since almost 2 years. And you also did the same meditation retreat. That's how we know each other. So before I start the podcast, I want to ask you one simple question to warm up. Let's say you have your own podcast and you can have 3 people on there. Dead or alive, doesn't matter. Who would it be?
On my podcast?
Yeah, 3 people.
I would get Hitler, the Buddha, and Charlie.
All at the same time?
Yeah, that's you said 3, right?
Yeah?
Yeah,
At the same time?
yeah.
Okay, why these 3?
Because Charlie's asked me the question. Without Charlie, they wouldn't come into the existence.
Okay. Good one.
And then Hitler and Buddha are polar opposite, but the same.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's a good one. I guess I would go with, Viktor Frankl? The guy that wrote A Man's Search for Meaning?
Well, I actually Philip's girlfriend was telling me about him
Yeah.
today, but I've heard his name. I haven't read his work.
Okay.
It's about like his experience in the concentration camp.
Basically, also gives you like a framework how to overcome every type of suffering you have.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he went through all kinds of suffering, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what he says is, if you find a meaning in your suffering, you can basically come out of every suffering without any issue.
Cool, man. Speaking of suffering, I got something to say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think suffering is a really important, like, insight to experience on the path to awakening, because like there's a stage in the Vipassana map called the Dark Night of the Soul, and without going through that stage, every meditator has to go through that stage, and it could be terrible. Some people get stuck in that stage for like maybe the rest of their lives because they don't know how to get out of it. There's a lot of people that don't get into meditation. They don't have the technique to get out of that phase. You see a lot of people that are like depersonalized. Those are the kind of people that they suffer because maybe they had a glimpse of emptiness. They had a glimpse of truth, but they don't have the whole thing. So they kind of like are stuck in this in-between phase. Eckhart Tolle calls that the no man's land. It's kind of, you have one foot in emptiness, one foot in solidity. And a lot of people that do a lot of psychedelics also kind of stuck in that phase. You know some people like that, and then they kind of had some glimpses into like the absolute reality, but they haven't completely like dissolved everything yet. And then that stage is really good that stage is a little different kind of suffering than let's say clinical depression. There's overlaps, of course, because you talk about the mind, it's never just like black and white, but there's a kind of like a very specific flavor to that kind of suffering. That's kind of like what people would call depersonalization or derealization. And then if you can get over that hump, that darkening of the soul phase, and then your consciousness will be upgraded.
So how do people know if they're in this phase? Why do they suffer so much? Because they chase this ultimate reality because they've seen it, or?
That's one of the reasons. Another one of the reason is that because they've seen the ultimate reality, they know that everything's connected. They know that it's not just individual. I'm not just housed in my own individual minds. We're all like connected. We're all sharing each other's pain and misery and suffering and joy. So like one of the really visceral feelings that I got when I was in the stage was like I went through. Usually you get to the stage after you have a really good meditation phase. Like you sometimes you go to retreat or you meditate, and then you experience like a lot of bliss, a lot of raptures, and a lot of like jhana states, and just like outer state consciousness is so good, all cosmic love, right? And then you fall back onto the dark night of the soul, and then those two like are sort of like two sides of the same coin. Of course, that the easiest analogies is for people that have done like Molly or something. You roll really hard, you're really happy, and then you have a come down. That's like with everything, arising and passing. So that's one insight, the arising and passing. So like when you meditate, of course, sometimes you feel joy and bliss and everything's so great. I'm seeing God, and then the next moment, next phase, next 3 months, whatever, you're in hell. You're seeing like devil and everything. But then you have this experience where, like the previous phase where you feel a lot of bliss, the reason why you feel so much love and bliss, even if you're meditating or go to a rave, is because you open up your heart, you open up your ego, You let go of your sense of self, and then you experiencing like the joy and the bliss and the happiness of not just yourself, because you let go of yourself already, but like maybe like the world. You know, if you're connected to the world, that's how you feel like so much alive. You know, and then in Dark Night of the Soul, it's the same thing. You open up yourself, you let go of the ego for a little bit, and then you experience like the suffering of the world. You feel like the whole world is suffering with you, and then the third stage, you know, you have the like Hegel, you know, the dialectics, and you have the thesis, the antithesis, and a new synthesis, a new synthesis. You know, the new synthesis is equanimity. So you after going through both of these phases, you realize they're both the same thing, just viewed from different like part of the box. You know, you like looking through a box. You look from this side, it's Dark Night of the Soul. You look from this side, it's like cosmic conscious bliss. You look from this side, it's God. You look from this side, it's devil. But then you realize that then you stay equanimous to both, and you realize that things are always both sided, and at the same time, if the things are both sided, that means there's no difference, and you come into this acceptance of both, like both. For both phases, it's part of the arising and passing phenomenon that Goenka talks about. It's just a really big cosmic arising and passing. It's just not just a sensation here, or like the pain here, and then like next moment you don't feel the pain. That's arising and passing too. But that's like a really cosmic arising and passing insight, and then you stay equanimous to that, and then you zoom out of that and embrace them both and become non-dual. Yeah.
So basically, what Goenka says, you can basically apply that for that, right?
You can apply, of course.
You don't judge it. You don't judge good. You don't judge
exactly,
bad, so
exactly.
Yeah. So for everyone watching that doesn't know what we're talking about, like Goenka is like the, how you could say, like the teacher of the Vipassana meditation. Technique.
But the Goenka tradition, there's actually two different types of Vipassana, but the Goenka one is the body scanning one. But it's all basically the same thing. But the Goenka is the body scanning tradition, where you scan your body up and down during your meditation.
And by just not caring about if you have pain or something else, you basically realize, if I don't care about my pain, it just goes away. So if I'm in real life, I'm walking around, something bad happens, if I just stay still and don't judge it, I don't suffer that much.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can basically have such a simple technique that helps you so much when you go through life, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the body scanning technique also activates your chakras. Yeah, because I had a Kundalini awakening like a month after my retreat, and then I talked to a lot of people that went through the kind of like the same thing. Not a lot of people, but there are people who like went through a Goenka retreat, and then their Kundalini gets activated either during the retreat or usually it's after. And then you said you have a friend who does Vipassana, also has some kind of Kundalini.
The first time,
interesting.
Had, like, his intense experience. He told me he was like sitting like that.
Yeah.
Then suddenly, his back straightened up, and it's so weird. He saw like some light or something, some weird stuff.
Similar. Yeah, that's Kundalini. And then for me, I think Goenka, the body scanning helps with Kundalini awakening. More than, let's say, just like, you know, Zazen, you just sit and you just do nothing, because you actually like physically and like actively scanning your body. You're scanning your body up and down. Of course, you scan your spine too, you know.
Yeah.
And then Goenka actually said to scan your spine when everything else is like dissolved, and you scan your spine. Yeah. So like so I think Goenka is a really powerful technique, because it teaches concentration, it teaches you clarity, and it teaches you to be equanimous.
Yeah.
And throughout all this, it actually activates your chakras and awakens your Kundalini too.
So to be honest, I don't know that much about chakras. Can you give a?
I didn't know anything about chakras either before. I just kind of read a little bit of it. I didn't really. It's funny because I've read kind of like reports, especially Yuji Kurishmati. You know Yuji Kurishmati. He had a pretty famous story about his event, his Kundalini awakening event. He calls it a commodity.
Okay.
What's that word?
Commodity.
No, calamity. Calamity means like just like death, you know, or like a serious like injury or something. So basically, he described it like a near death, not a near death experience, an actual death experience, where your entire physical structure and mental structure every particle gets combusted from the inside, and then you reconstruct again.
Yeah.
And then every time that happens, so it doesn't happen many times. I think each person only go through that once, but then that phase may be like days or weeks. But then once you go through that like huge Kundalini activation, where you just like basically you feel the energy from the bottom of your spine first, and then you travel from the root chakra all the way through the heart chakra to the neck chakra. There's like 7 chakras, I think, and then finally to the crown chakra. The last 2 weeks were the most intense, but beautiful. Finally found what I was looking for my whole life. The human mind, naturally, without any substances, is capable of producing states of consciousness beyond your wildest imaginations, as powerful as a DMT or ayahuasca trip. And then your third eye opens up. And like before, I never really was into this. You know, I was into mindfulness. I was into like neuroscience. I was into all this shit. But like just something about chakras, just I didn't really resonate with because my level of development wasn't there yet. But once that it opened, I was like, holy shit, this thing's real. And then I was like, everything that I was doing before was actually for this. Even Vipassana was for this. Even creativity was for this. Even fitness was for this. Because that's how powerful it is. Even psychedelics, it was like a DMT trip with Natty. Basically, the Kundalini energy is the most powerful force in existence, and it's basically the Shakti, it's the feminine energy, it's a sexual energy, it's an energy that drives all creation.
Yeah.
So, like, I think the way I look at it now, everything that we're doing is just to activate the Kundalini. We just don't know it. Like, if you want like money, you want sex, you want like a nice body, we all just want to connect with the divine.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So basically, I know Owen talks a lot about this, like R.Z. Tyler. He said some videos. He said some people, they are born and they move more to the source by reading more, being happier, you know. And some people just want to experience pain and they move more to the dark side.
But it's kind of the same, man. Like we talked about. A lot of people become enlightened after they had to go through serious suffering, like totally. So like if you go all the way down to the bottom of the dark, the well, and you can find the light on the other side. Enlightenment or awakening, it's all about near-death experiences. It's all about rebirth, like death and rebirth, That's why awakening is. You wake up from a dream, the dream was dead. You wake up to a new reality. So the whole process of awakening is death and rebirth. There's tiny micro cycles of it and macro cycles of it. And the same, another term to describe death and rebirth is rising and passing. Rising and passing, that's the rhythm to the whole universe. The seasoning of the world, the night and dark, you know, everything, lifting too, like bulking and cutting, the concentrics and eccentric. Everything is rising and passing. That's the law of the universe.
That's a good one.
And the biggest rising and passing is your whole entire mind body structure gets like the Kundalini awakening or enlightenment experience where it gets combusted and then reconstructed. That's the biggest rising and passing, because then you not just your sense of self gets deconstructed. The moment your sense of self, because your sense of self is your entire matrix. And when your sense of self gets deconstructed and reconstructed, that is the same as saying you are unplugged from the matrix. You're unplugged. You're a character in a video game that gets unplugged. You left the screen. You're a character in a movie. You left the screen and come back. And then once you have just one of those experiences, you could say you've been awakened.
Yeah.
So the moment that you get unplugged, that you leave the movie screen, that moment is what they call Nirvana. Because Nirvana needs to blow out, to turn the lights off. So a lot of people think Nirvana is like bliss and like happiness and joy and raptures and stuff like that, or conflict consciousness. That's not the true definition of Nirvana. Another word for Nirvana is cessation. It's a total end to your mind, not even awareness for it. It's kind of like you play a movie and then a frame gets taken out. So just that moment is the moment of enlightenment, and that's actually Buddha's biggest insight, because we talk about suffering for Christ too, for any religion actually, because all religion comes from non-duality. In like Christian tradition, contemplation techniques will take you there too. Just different ways to get there, but there's only one truth at the end. That one truth is the moment of Nirvana, because the moment of unconsciousness is the same for everybody. So the moment of unconsciousness or of death is true non-duality.
And the real insight is that how the self or the matrix gets deconstructed and then put it back together. Like just witnessing that will give you enough wisdom to like for like the next lifetime or just end reincarnation to put it metaphorically.